have lived in the Raleigh area my entire life, and today we're going to be digging into the things you need to know before making a move here, so stick around.
All right, so the first thing you need to know about the Raleigh area is home prices. Is it affordable? So the median home price in Raleigh, and this is a 12-month rolling average, is $525,000. So that's obviously a little bit higher, quite a bit higher than like the national average. But when you compare it to other regions, it's less than Cary. So Cary is $725,000 for a median single-family home. But it's more expensive than places like Durham. So Durham is $450,000 for a single family home. And then Clayton, which is one of the most affordable regions, is $385,000. So it's even below that 400 mark. So Raleigh's kind of like middle of the pack when it comes to affordability here.
Yeah. Yep, for sure. So which side of Raleigh is the best? People ask that a lot. You know, should I look at North Raleigh or South Raleigh, West or East? And honestly, Raleigh is such a big and diverse area. There's going to be a perfect spot for everybody, and depending on kind of what you're looking for your lifestyle. So, you know, you have North Raleigh, you have a lot of access to a lot of greenway space, parks and trails. It's not that you don't have that in other parts of Raleigh, but it does feel a little more concentrated in that north side, and there tends to be a lot more shopping and commercial space on that north side as well. If that's sounds like your worst nightmare, you might be more interested in being on the southern side of Raleigh, where things feel a little bit more spaced out, a little bit more rural.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so what if Raleigh isn't the best fit? Maybe from a price point perspective, or even you just don't really like the vibe or the feel of Raleigh. Are there other areas close to Raleigh that could work? And there are. So if you like more of maybe the suburban feel and you're looking for a lower price point, a place like Wake Forest would be a really good option. If you like more of kind of the artsy vibe, I don't know what to call it, or like foodie vibe, like maybe Durham would be a good option. And so this area has a lot of different diverse options when it comes to, you know, small towns or suburbs or kind of artsy cities that could make a really good option for you.
Right, yeah. If Raleigh doesn't feel like a good fit, there is definitely a lot of other options just on the outskirts around here that still put you close to Raleigh if you do have like a job in the area or family here, without having to be in the border of Raleigh itself. And we have videos on all of these areas on our channel, so if you are curious and kind of figuring out maybe another spot close by, check those out.
Yep, absolutely. All right, so what about employment opportunities in the Raleigh area? And this area in general is going to offer a ton of employment opportunities. Duke is going to be the largest employer in our area, and Duke is obviously associated with Durham, but it's not exclusive to Durham. You have Duke facilities that are all throughout the region, even though a lot of it is based in the Durham area.
Right, and that's not just the college, it's more of like the medical.
Yeah, the medical, exactly.
A lot of our just general smaller doctor's offices are operated by Duke.
Yep, exactly. And then you have the Research Triangle Park, which obviously hosts a ton of companies. The majority of that is also on the Durham County side, though there's a small portion that's on the Wake County side. But it borders Wake County so close that you could live in the Raleigh area and easily work in the Research Triangle Park and not have a very long commute.
Yeah, for sure. So you've got Duke and RTP, and if those aren't really you're like, I don't want to work in medical or tech or anything, pharmaceuticals, there's a ton of other jobs here too, a huge need for teachers and other, lots of teachers and just tons of other support staff and things like that, even through Duke, that aren't just medical itself. So definitely a lot of opportunities here for employment.
Yeah, for sure.
And by the way, you should be sure to subscribe to our channel and leave a comment, like this video below. We put out videos like this on a weekly basis. We are real estate agents in the area, so if you're looking to make a move, we would love to be your resource of choice, and our contact info is below. So what's up with the schools? When you're moving to an area with kids, you definitely want to be sure that that is obviously taken care of and a high priority item on your to-do list when moving somewhere new. And it can be a little confusing moving into the Raleigh area because schools here, compared to a lot of other neighboring states, are a bit confusing. There's a lot of school choice, which is a great thing. You have your districted schools. There's a lot of magnet lotteries within those in the school districts as well. Tons and tons of charter schools, lots of private options. So you have really an endless buffet of choices, which is a little overwhelming as a parent and can also be a good thing because you can really take the time to find the best fit for your child. But you know, if you're moving to the Raleigh area in general, you're going to be housed in the Wake County public school system. The surrounding areas could be different, so you want to make sure you know which county you're moving into because those counties kind of dictate the district of the school and whatnot. But one other thing that complicates things in Wake County, there are so many people relocating here that some of those schools that you might be districted for could be full or capped. And so you want to make sure you go into it knowing, you know, is that option even going to be available to me if I do move into the area? And if all this sounds as overwhelming as I think it does, you might want to schedule a call with our partner school consultant. They are awesome in helping people figure out the best fit for them, depending on what area they want to live in, and can kind of help narrow down that search. For sure.
All right, so what about transportation or walkability? So honestly, one of probably the most common questions we get is Raleigh walkable? Or is there a place in Raleigh that we can live that's walkable? And yes, there are some places that are walkable, but in general, your main source of transportation in our region has to be a car. I mean, there are some like public transportation options, buses specifically, but our area, you know, it's not like in New York City, it's not like in Atlanta where you have these like, you know, I guess, very well-defined public transportation options. Our region really is cars and cars alone. And so it is very, very tough to find a walkable location in Raleigh.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, you can live close to the downtown region and have, you know, things that you can walk to, like coffee shops, bars, restaurants, but even living there, you'll probably find you still feel like you need a car to get places like the grocery store or Target. You know, you're not going to like, you know, easily get to somewhere like that. So you're definitely going to feel like you're going to be heavily relying on a car, even if you do live in those downtown areas. You know, there could be some fun to be had living there, like walkability to some of those smaller things, but the majority of your shopping and stuff, you probably still find you need a car for.
Yeah, exactly.
So what about new construction versus resale? Today in the Raleigh market, about a third of your options are going to be new construction.
Yeah, and that's single family specifically.
Yeah, single family, not townhomes and condos, but single family new construction. We find most people are kind of, at least initially in their search, looking for single family options. So we try to kind of hone in on that. But yeah, a lot of your options here are going to be new construction. Those are going to feel completely different than what you might find on the resale market, but obviously there are a lot of pros and cons to both.
Yeah, I mean, one of the main benefits for new construction right now really are the incentives that builders are offering. So if interest rates, mortgage rates are an issue for you purchasing, one way to combat that, one of the easiest ways to combat that is really through the new construction process, because a lot of builders right now are offering substantial enough incentives. You can either buy down that rate, or some of them are offering specific rate incentives. And so there's just a lot of options on the new construction side to kind of combat some of the high mortgage rates that we're seeing right now.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously everything in new construction is brand new. So if the idea of like, you know, having to do a lot of maintenance up front is not appealing to you, that could be good. However, if you're looking to have a larger yard, a more established feel, maybe a little more character in the home, a lot of people would rather opt for a resale because that just tends to be more of what you find that way.
Exactly. All right, so what about HOAs? So that another common question that we get from folks is, can I buy a home without an HOA? And again, the answer is yes, but it limits your inventory by a significant amount. So when you look at how many homes in the Raleigh region have an HOA, you're talking about 70% of those homes. So that really only leaves you at the end of the day about 30% left to choose from when it comes from an inventory standpoint. So you can find it without an HOA, but it's going to limit your options significantly.
Yeah, and of those 30% that are left, you're probably going to be looking at a lot of homes built probably before the 1980s, or possibly outside of the city limit. So, you know, you have to be
like a well and a septic.
Right, which you could end up with a well and a septic if you're outside the city limit.
Which isn't a bad thing. I mean, we live on a well and a septic, and
and we don't live in the city.
Yeah, but we do work with people who, you know, it's a hard no to have a well and a septic. And so, and another thing that comes with that some people don't think about is it's not uncommon in some of those neighborhoods without an HOA to still have restrictive covenants. So you may not have an HOA that enforces those covenants, but some of those neighborhoods still are gonna have the exact same covenants you're gonna have in an HOA. You're just not gonna have the HOA to enforce them. They're gonna be enforced by the neighbors or the county.
Right. All right, so we get a lot of folks that ask, where are all of the basements? A lot of people moving from other states are so accustomed to having a basement. It's just not common here, you know? We, just the way the soil and stuff is here, we have a lot of clay. Digging that out is so dense. It's just not as common for every house to have a basement. You know, you do find them if the lot that you're on maybe is sloped, or it's kind of already dug out a little bit. But for the most part, if you are saying, I only want a home with a basement, you're gonna be looking for a while, probably. We just don't have a ton of those. In retrospect though, you know, some people want those because they turn them into like a game room or something, whereas it's common here in our area to maybe have a bonus room up on the second floor or like a third floor finished attic space that you can still have all of that, kind of that like random room for storage or a rec room. So, you know, you can still get the same like access to that additional space, but it's probably not going to be below ground. Yeah, exactly. And the two reasons I've been given, I know Cindy mentioned the soils, the two reasons I've been given by builders on why this isn't the case as far as having basements. One is water table level in the soil just doesn't allow for basements. And we do have water, like basements do sometimes have water issues in our area. And the other is the frost line isn't deep enough in order to justify digging down that far. So I don't know which one's true, but at the end of the day, basements are not common here. We are Zach and Cindy Honeycutt, a couple of real estate agents in the area. So if you are looking to buy or sell, we'd love to be your real estate resource of choice. You can find our contact info below, and you can also find us on Instagram. Yep, we'd love to have you follow along on Instagram. You can find us at the Honeycutt Realtors. We would love for you to message us there if you're interested in food reviews, parks, things going on in the area. Also feel free to follow our second account, the RDU Buzz, and we look forward to seeing you next week. See you next time.